The millionaire's humble housekeeper calms an autistic child. What happens next is unbelievable. Clara had never stepped foot in a place like this before. The mansion towered over the quiet suburb, its polished marble floors gleaming under huge crystal chandeliers that hung like frozen stars. The heavy silence inside felt thick, like the walls themselves were holding back secrets. Clara tightened her grip on the dustcloth in her hands, heart pounding. She was just the housekeeper, plain and simple, from a small town with little more than hope in her pockets. But today, she was given a task unlike any other: to care for Leo, the millionaire's son, who hadn't spoken a single word since the accident that shattered their lives years ago. Leo sat by the grand window, a small, pale boy wrapped in a cocoon of stillness. His eyes held a swirl of storm and shadow, darting everywhere but latching onto nothing. The house felt colder around him, its vast emptiness a mirror of his silence. Clara moved slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hey, Leo, want to look at this?" she said, holding out a worn wooden toy car, simple and rough in her calloused hands. For hours she tried, soft words, gentle touches, little gestures, watching for any crack in the invisible wall Leo built around himself. And then, almost by accident, her breath caught, a flicker, a spark. His eyes locked onto hers. For a split second, recognition blazed in that deep, dark pool. A tiny, trembling smile touched the corner of his lips. It was so brief, Clara's knees almost gave out. But right then, Clara found something else. Something she wasn't supposed to see. Behind a locked door, tucked away in the shadowed heart of the house, a box, weathered, locked tight with a heavy chain, whispering secrets too dangerous to speak aloud. She caught sight of a shredded photograph inside, pieces of a world the family tried desperately to forget. The air turned thick. Her chest squeezed so tight she could barely breathe. In that moment, Clara felt the weight of the mansion's cold loneliness crushing down, mixing with the fragile hope glowing in Leo's eyes. Torn between obeying a powerful man, known for his ruthless control, and protecting the silent boy who reached for a sliver of connection, Clara's hands were trembling, not from cold, but fear. Suddenly, a crashing sound tore through the vast halls. Leo bolted, frightened, trapped, and the silence shattered. Clara's heart slammed against her ribs. The fragile progress they'd made seemed about to unravel. Would the bond she'd struggled to build survive this storm? Or was it all just a lie cloaked in marble and silence? The questions echoed louder than the chandeliers above. What was the terrible secret locked away in the family's past? Could a humble housekeeper with nothing but patience and quiet strength protect this broken boy from the dark shadows creeping closer? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The sound of shattering glass echoed like a gunshot, slicing through the chilling silence of the mansion. Clara's heart skipped as Leo bolted, his small body tangling in the folds of his oversized sweater. She rushed after him, lungs burning, hoping to catch him before he disappeared into the vast shadows of the house. "Leo, stop!" Her voice trembled as it bounced off the marble walls, but he didn't hear her. Fear painted his face, wide and searching, while she felt dread creeping in, tightening around her like a hand around her throat. Suddenly the air shifted, and Clara stopped dead in her tracks. From a distance she could hear soft whispers, rising and falling, like a tide of secrets, threatening to drown her. She glanced to her right and saw a door slightly ajar, leading to a dimly lit hall. Without thinking, she moved toward it, curiosity pulling her in. "Leo," she called again, heart pounding louder against her ribs. She needed to find him. The whispers grew, tumbling out of the hall, filling her with an unsettling chill. As she stepped inside, darkness wrapped around her like a thick blanket. The flickering light from an old lamp cast eerie shadows on the walls. There, slumped against the wall, was a figure. Clara squinted, her breath hitching. It was Leo, his small frame trembling like a leaf in a storm. But before she could rush to him, a voice cut through the murmur. "Why are you here?" The voice was deep, thick with emotion, echoing off the walls like thunder. Clara whirled around. Standing there was the millionaire himself, his face a mask of shock and barely contained fury. He towered over her, a looming shadow. "What have you done?" he barked, eyes flashing. "You were supposed to stay away from my son." "Sir, Clara stammered, feeling heat rush to her face. "I was just trying to help him." But then another crash interrupted her. The heavy door she came through slammed shut, in ominous finality, settling in the air. Leo's wide eyes darted between them, pure panic etched into his delicate features. "Please, let him go," Clara whispered, stepping forward, desperate. "He needs someone. He needs—" "Enough!" The millionaire's booming voice shook the room. "You think you know what he needs? You have no idea of the danger you've put him in." Clara's heart sank. She had stepped into a trap. In that moment, Leo whispered a word, long and soft, like music slipping from his lips. "Mom." The name rolled out so quietly, yet it felt like an explosion. The room fell silent. Clara felt a chill creep into her bones. "Leo," the millionaire said, his voice trembling now. "No, that name this isn't." But Leo stood still, eyes wild, as if the very mention had awakened something deep inside him. Clara's head spun. "What is happening?" she gasped, looking from Leo to the man who seemed to be losing his grip. "Get out, both of you!" the millionaire yelled, but Leo didn't move. His face turned to stone, a vengeful spark igniting within. Clara felt a familiar twinge of recognition. This wasn't just fear. This was courage. Suddenly, Leo reached out, his small hand stretching toward Clara, breaking through the whirlwind of tension in the air. She felt her own heart calling back, as if the walls were melting away, exposing the truth buried beneath. "What secret have you been hiding?" she demanded, not breaking their connection. Then, from behind them, a low, creaking sound rose from the air, like a door being unlatched. Clara's gaze shot toward the locked door she had seen earlier, chains rattling softly as they fell away. And in that moment, everything shifted. The flickering light dimmed, and Clara knew nothing would ever be the same. A revelation was coming, but what had they unleashed? Clara's heart raced as the chains clinked to the floor, the locked door trembling from something beyond. A gasp escaped her lips, her instinct screaming that what lay behind it was more than just a family secret. It felt like a storm gathering strength. Leo's gaze flickered to the door, then back to his father. The fear in the air thickened, wrapping around them all. The millionaire's expression twisted, and for a heartbeat, Clara saw vulnerability in him, but it vanished, replaced by fury. "Don't you dare," he shouted, lurching forward as if he could physically block whatever was coming. "Leo," Clara whispered, but he didn't hear her. He stepped closer, searching for answers, his small body quivering with courage. "Mom," he repeated louder this time. The word hung heavy. The man's face paled. "No, stop," he bellowed, but it was too late. With a sudden heave, the locked door creaked open, and dark shadows spilled out like a wave crashing on the shore. Clara's breath caught as she braced herself against the threshold, feeling pulled toward a truth she didn't fully understand. And then, an image burst forth from the shadows. A woman stepped into the dim light, wearing a dress that dissolved into darkness. Clara felt the world tilt. A shiver ran through her. It was Leo's mother, or what was left of her. The woman's eyes were glassy, reflecting memories lost in time. "Help," she whispered, her voice stretching thin like a struck chord. Clara stood frozen, confusion blanketing her. The millionaire's face twisted in horror. "No, this is not possible," he shouted, his voice raw. But Leo took a shaky step forward, reaching out. "Mom," he breathed, voice quaking with longing. It was more than just a word. It was a lifeline thrown into a stormy sea. The connection sparked a memory, and the air crackled with electric tension. "Leo." The woman's voice wrapped around him, and Clara watched as something incredible happened. The fragile, trembling bond between them, sealed in sadness, seemed to awaken the boy within the man in front of her. The millionaire's facade crumbled slightly, revealing a face haunted by love and loss. "Do you recognize her?" Clara whispered, heart pounding. Could this really be happening? He turned to her, eyes wide with disbelief. "She died. You shouldn't be here." He stumbled back, grasping the air like it might hold on to him. The spirit's presence flickered, shadows dancing around her form. "Leo, I'm here," her voice echoed. Clara felt a sudden jolt of understanding wash over her. The accident had taken much more than voice. It had hollowed out a family. Leo was the quiet anchor, his silence a shield forged in grief. But here stood the wisp of the past, asking him to break free. "No," he shouted suddenly, fiery and resolute. "You left us." Stunned silence enveloped the room, tangled with emotions. Clara gasped as Leo's small body shimmered with newfound strength. "You abandoned me," he cried. And in that moment, it felt like the very walls trembled as all the unsaid words erupted. The millionaire, eyes glistening with unshed tears, shook his head. "I thought it was for the best. I had to protect you from the truth." The room spun with dizzying revelations. Protect from what? The truth of their past or the truth of their present? Clara's heart raced as she pieced it together, feeling like a puzzle she wasn't meant to solve. "Tell me," Clara urged, feeling the gravity of the moment. "Tell me everything." The whispers rose again, swirling around them, weaving in and out, secrets demanding to be unveiled. The woman flickered, a ghostly plea hanging in the air, desperate to convey something that could shatter the cage of silence they all lived in. Suddenly, the power in the room shifted. The shadows narrowed, focusing on Clara. "You're the key," the woman murmured, her figure dimming. "Me?" Clara breathed, knees wobbling. How could she be a key? But before anyone could respond, the lights flickered, plunging them into an unsettling darkness. She felt a strange warmth envelop her, as if she was meant to step into this mystery, the unwritten story grasping at her heart. What was happening? What truth awaited them in the dark? As Clara stood there, she realized the terrifying reality set before them all. They were just at the beginning of a journey that would change everything. "Leo, hold on to me," she said, extending her hand as panic lingered like a storm. And as they reached, the air pulsed with energy, dark and bright at the same time. What secret was unraveling? What uncharted path lay before them? Clara held her breath, the room pulsing with energy as shadows danced from the newly opened door. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something monumental. Leo still held onto her hand, his small fingers trembling against her palm, drawing strength from her presence as the spirit uncovered memories long buried. "Mom, please," he whispered again, his spirit fierce despite the fear etched in his face. The spectral woman began to fade, the edges of her form blurring as she reached out toward Leo. But before their fingers could connect, a deafening crash split the air. The chandelier overhead shook violently, sending a shower of crystals cascading down. Clara ducked instinctively, her heart pounding as fear surged through her. And then, in an instant, the temperature dropped. A cold wave washed over them, seeping into the bones. Clara gasped. Something unthinkable was happening. The shadows trembled, writhed wildly, as if alive, then took shape, coiling around them like snakes. "Get away from him!" the millionaire bellowed, his voice a roar. But he was too late. Leo's eyes widened impossibly, filled with something that flickered like hope and horror intertwined. "Mom!" he cried, as the galloping shadows reformed, and suddenly a figure emerged, not the gentle presence of his mother, but a much darker silhouette. Clara's gut dropped as she realized who it was. The figure stepped forward, cloaked in impenetrable darkness, features obscured by a heavy hood. The figure casually brushed aside a chain that fell from the wall, and Clara noticed it glinting ominously. The same chain that had held the secrets of this home captive. "Innocent child," the figure hissed, voice laced with a chilling familiarity. How naive to think you could summon forth the past without consequence. "What are you?" Clara gasped, thrown into a whirlwind of confusion. The figure lifted its head, revealing a face that twisted her stomach into knots. It was the millionaire's twin brother, presumed dead after the family's tragic accident. The resemblance was uncanny. Clara's eyes widened as she recalled the whispers she had heard, hidden in the corners of this house. "How is this possible?" she breathed, heart hammering with disbelief. Had this family lost one brother only to have another rise like a shadow? Leo stumbled backward, eyes darting between the two men, horror thick in the air. You're not supposed to be here," he stammered, a mix of denial and fear. But the dark figure leaned closer, an unsettling smile twisting across twisted lips. "Ah, but dear Leo, I've always been here, right in the shadows, watching as this family falls apart." The air grew heavy, thick with the weight of long-buried secrets and regrets. Clara's mind raced. How had they not known? The millionaire took a step back, his bravado crumbling like fragile glass. "Leave my son alone," he shouted, voice cracking. "Your son?" the figure mocked, a cruel laugh echoing through the dim space. "He's mine too, in every way that matters. You, like the rest, thought you could erase me, but I am the storm you can't escape." Clara felt the ground beneath her feet shift, as if the very foundation of everything she understood was crumbling. Confusion turned to rage as she looked at Leo, whose face was pale and stricken, trying to hold on to the last vestiges of his childhood innocence. "No, you're lying," Leo screamed, rich defiance spilling out as he took a step back, using whatever strength was left in him to stand strong amidst the chaos. "You were gone, you left us, you died." But the shadowed figure only laughed, a sound that sent chills down Clara's spine. "You think you know the truth? There is so much more at play here. Darker truths and hidden ambitions buried beneath these opulent walls. And you, Clara, you're part of it too now." Clara felt her heart race. What did he mean, gripped by an icy fear? She glanced at the millionaire. His face twisted in anguish, yet something darker lingered beneath the surface. She turned back to Leo, whose eyes were now filled with fury, burning bright against the encroaching despair. "Mom is here," Leo murmured, stepping toward the moving shadow before him, voice steady and resolute. "And so am I." As the shadows converged, Clara braced for impact, knowing nothing would ever be the same. The air crackled with energy, charged with an uncertain future, as the weight of untold truth loomed like a gathering storm. What had they awakened? And what was this twisted legacy lurking just beneath the surface of everything they thought they knew? Clara stood trembling, her heart pounding wildly as the dark figure's laughter echoed through the room. The atmosphere was thick with fear and confusion. Shadows shifted and pulsed, each ripple echoing the deepening chaos of the moment. Leo stood paralyzed, caught between the ghost of his mother and the looming threat of the man who claimed to return from death. "Leo, stay close," Clara urged, extending her hand as if it could tether him to safety. But the boy's gaze was locked onto the shape before him, fear morphing into a defiant resolve. "Get away from us," Leo shouted, each word brimming with newfound courage. The figure smirked, darkness swirling around him like a living cloak. "You think you can stop me? You're merely children playing with forces you don't understand." Clara's insides twisted with dread. "We're not afraid of you," she spat, trying to bolster her own wavering courage, but it was a fragile facade. crumbling beneath the weight of the shadows pressing in. Just then, everything shattered. A bolt of lightning pierced through the darkness, a blazing flash that almost blinded them. The lights flickered madly, illuminating the figure just long enough for Clara to see the truth. His face, twisted in malice, was identical to the millionaire's. "No, this can't be," she gasped, mind racing. "How could this be? Surprise. Surprise," the figure crooned, voice dripping with sarcasm. "You didn't think I'd let my brother forget, did you?" The millionaire staggered backward, the shock flashing across his face. "You're supposed to be dead." "Dead?" the figure barked a laugh. "I was never dead. I was just waiting. And now it's time to reclaim what's mine." The air crackled around them as the shadows quivered, an electric tension humming, pulsating like a heartbeat. Clara felt the walls close in, breathing becoming shallow as the ground beneath them vanished, replaced by a chasm of buried memories reaching out for revenge. "No, Leo!" Clara screamed as he took a step forward, drawn inexplicably to the figure. In that moment of distraction, the floor erupted beneath them. A jagged fissure tore open, swallowing the ground with a thunderous roar. Leo lost his footing, the dark shadows grasping at him like desperate hands. Clara's heart raced as she lunged for him, fingers outstretched. "Leo!" But before she could reach him, the shadows coiled tighter, revealing a screaming face, a ghostly figure of a woman twisted with anguish, crying out into the void. Clara recoiled, recognizing her. It was Leo's mother, not as a weak strand of memory, but as a dark harbinger of retribution. "Mom!" Leo cried out, voice cracking. He stretched his hand toward her, confusion and longing pooling in his wide, terrified eyes. The woman's gaze shifted, eyes filled with sorrow and anger, a paradox swirling within them. "Leo, come back," she implored, reaching out as if they could bridge the chasm with love. But the shadows roared, echoing with anger. "You will not take him. He is mine to reclaim. This family will pay." An icy tendril slithered around Clara's ankle, clutching her tightly, pulling her toward the wreckage. She struggled and fought, desperation surging within her. The millionaire stood paralyzed in horror, trapped in the venomous gaze of his brother, his betrayal unfolding in the air. "Don't let him take you," Clara choked out, panic rushing through her. The winds of fate howled around them as the shadows coalesced, thickening like a storm cloud. And then it happened, a blinding flash. The very air sparked with energy as an explosion of light erupted from the fissure, enveloping them all. Clara shielded her eyes, feeling searing heat rush through the room, engulfing every corner in an unexpected brilliance. When the light faded, Clara gasped. They weren't in the mansion anymore. They stood in a vast empty landscape, endless and surreal. The shadows had vanished, but before Clara could grasp the enormity of their transformation, shocking revelation washed over her like ice water. Leo and his mother stood closer now, their figures touching, no longer separate entities but intertwined in a way that transcended the physical. "Mom," Leo whispered, eyes wide with confusion, and in that moment the truth struck like thunder. "Leo, I am part of you," the woman murmured, voice trembling like a fragile thread. "You must remember." Clara's pulse quickened. What did that mean? Was she witnessing a fusion between their spirits? Questions flooded her mind, unraveling the very fabric of reality they thought they knew. What had changed in this world? Who were they now? As wonders raced through Clara's thoughts, she realized with a chilling clarity that the game was only beginning. What other secrets lay buried beyond this horizon? What was waiting to be uncovered? Clara stood in the vast expanse, heart racing as Leo reached toward his mother's ghostly form. The air buzzed with tension, each moment stretching, unraveling the fabric of their reality. The warmth of hope flickered, trying to guide them through darkness. But just as Leo's small fingers grazed hers, the landscape around them trembled. Without warning, the ground heaved. Clara stumbled, the earth shifting beneath their feet, like a body convulsing in pain. She grabbed hold of Leo, pulling him close, fear flooding her. "What's happening?" she gasped. "Mom!" Leo screamed, voice laden with desperation, but the shadows swirled menacingly, circling like hungry wolves. The ghost's figure flickered, wavering between existence and darkness. "Leo, back up," Clara yelled, dragging him behind her as the air thickened, suffocating them in dread. The specter of his mother struggled against the chaos, an echo of anguish painting her transparent face. "I never wanted this," she cried, voice breaking, fading. Then came a thunderous crash. Through the wild storm of energy, a figure shot forward, clad in darkness, a wraith-like embodiment of rage and sadness. Clara gasped. It was the millionaire's twin, his wicked grin a garish mockery. "Enough of this," he roared, pointing a skeletal finger at the gathering shadows. "You think you can rewrite history? Let's see how well you do with the truth." With a flick of his wrist, the air exploded. A blinding light filled the space, shocking Clara into a daze. It blurred reality, and when it faded, they weren't in the vast emptiness anymore. They were back in the mansion, but everything was different. The walls loomed larger, the air stained with bitterness. Leo and Clara were alone in a room that reeked of despair, paint peeling, furniture overturned. "What just happened?" Clara whispered, panic rising like bile in her throat. She turned to Leo, whose face was pale but determined. "Mom was here. She was real," he insisted, shaking off the shadows clinging to his spirit. But as Clara searched his eyes for reassurance, the room around them began to distort. Walls warping, doors sprouting up in strange places. Clara clenched her fists, confusion engulfing her like waves crashing overboard. "Something's not right," she said, glancing around. "We've opened something. We need to leave." Leo shook his head, eyes wide. "No, I need to find out the truth." Suddenly, a pulse of energy surged, emanating from the shadows. Clara stepped back. Her breath hitched as the whirlwind of darkness congealed, reshaping into a swirling mass. Within it, a figure began to emerge. A woman, beautiful yet haunting, with despair etched into her features. "Help me," she cried, reaching out as if trying to breach a chasm of despair. Clara's heart raced. Was this another spirit? The atmosphere crackled around them, heavy with secrets. Then, with a sudden force, the shadows exploded outward, casting the spectral figure into the light. Clara squinted, and in the chaos, she caught a glimpse. The woman was familiar. Her heart stopped. "Anna?" Clara whispered, voice barely finding breath. In that instant, the pain twisted into something deeper. Anna, the millionaire's wife, the very woman long thought dead in the wreck. But why was she here, trapped with them? Questions surged like fire, threatening to engulf her. Clara's mind raced. What secrets did this family harbor? Before anyone could respond, a low rumble filled the room. The ground quaked beneath them. Screams echoed, distant yet near. And then something shifted that made Clara's heart plummet. The walls began to bleed shadows. They weren't just trapped in the mansion anymore, but in the very heart of the family's tragic history. A painful cycle repeating itself. "Clara, help!" Leo's voice trembled, pulling her back to reality. But Clara found herself frozen. There were echoes of distant cries, voices overlapping, growing louder. A cacophony of sorrow and regret. The woman reached out again, agony flashing across her face, revealing a secret embedded in the walls that whispered of betrayal and love twisted into despair. "Leo, it's not safe," Clara yelled. But as she turned to grab him, the figure of Anna twisted, revealing her true nature in a final moment of clarity. "You must stop him, before he comes for you too," she urged. Just then, the shadows coiled tighter, revealing the dark truth Clara had feared all along. The family wasn't just hiding secrets, they were cursed. And the path to breaking it might lead to a revelation that would shatter everything they knew. As waves of fury and despair crashed around them, a single thought gnawed. At the back of Clara's mind, who could they truly trust when betrayal ran deeper than blood? The mansion trembled, shadows lurking, waiting for the moment to strike. Would they uncover the truth, Or would they be swallowed whole by the darkness? Clara stood frozen, her heart racing, as Anna's fragile form shimmered in and out of focus. The specter of the past loomed over them, the air thick with memories and whispers of desperation. Shadows twisted and pulled as if the very house breathed, consuming their hopes. Leo's small hand trembled in hers, but his gaze shone with fierce determination. "Mom," he breathed, reaching out again, but the air pulsed ominously. Clara could feel something deep brewing, an awakening beneath the surface. The earth shifted, quaking as if in response to the weight of the hidden truths. "Stop!" Clara shouted into the encroaching darkness, desperation washing over her. "This isn't right." But the shadows didn't listen. They surged forward, and suddenly, a blinding flash burst from Anna's figure. Clara shielded her eyes, fearing what might come next. Just then, a low growl echoed, shaking the very foundation beneath them. Then, like a nightmare, ripping through reality, the shadows split wide open, revealing a swirling void. It was dark and bottomless, like an endless pit calling her name. Clara felt the urge to pull Leo closer, to shield him from whatever horror waited. And then it happened, a pulse, a surge of bright light overcoming the storm of darkness. Clara's breath caught in her throat as the shadows recoiled, revealing a figure emerging from the depths, a child. A little girl, maybe 6, with hauntingly familiar eyes that bore into Clara's soul. "Emma," Anna's ethereal voice cracked. "My daughter." Clara's heart thudded painfully. "What? Who is she?" The child's eyes darted wildly around the room, searching for familiarity and comfort. "Mommy?" she called, voice trembling as the air grew heavier. "I'm scared." "No," the millionaire's voice thundered through the chaos. "You shouldn't be here. We thought we lost you." And Clara's world twisted. A child born of tragedy? She felt the ground wobble beneath her, confusion swirling like a tempest in her mind. This couldn't be. The darkness had taken everything from this family, and now it was trying to claim even more. In that instant, Anna's figure flickered again, her connection to both children intensifying. "You need to leave, Emma, now." Panic etched deeper into Anna's features. Emma isn't a ghost, Clara realized, her mind scrambling to piece it all together. She was trapped. The shadows began to form together, reshaping the air around them into familiar faces. Clara gasped, dread coiling tightly in her chest. They weren't just dragging shadows from the past. They were stitching together the missing pieces, the unspeakable truths the family had buried deep. But then the ground trembled again, and Clara heard a voice unlike any other. It was a grating growl, layered with wickedness. "Look at what you've summoned, Anna." The dark twins stepped forward, teeth bared in a grin that sent chills down Clara's spine. "Your precious daughter lost and forgotten, just like you." "No," Leo yelled, stepping forward. "She's not lost. She's here." And Clara felt a sudden rush of clarity. "You can't take her. Not now. We are stronger than you." The words escaped her lips before she could think. The dark twin cackled, shadows swirling angrily around him. "Oh, but dear Clara, you're just beginning to understand. There's so much more you don't know, and so much that is about to change." The room began to twist and contort as memories surfaced. The aftermath of the car crash, a suffocating guilt that bound them all. Everything Clara had learned shattered like glass underfoot. "Leo, hold on," Clara shouted, drawing him back. "We have to fight." But Emma writhed in front of them, pulled between worlds. The tension crackled like static in the air, intertwining their fates in a way Clara never expected. "Things are not what they seem," Emma murmured, voice a blend of innocence and ancient wisdom. "You have to see." Suddenly, everything went dark again. Shadows erupted, swallowing the figure of Emma whole. The scream echoed like a phantom, chilling Clara to her core. "What just happened?" she gasped, heart racing. "Where is she?" The shadows whispered secrets, swirling around Clara and Leo, dancing in the chaos. As the chilling realization sank in, Clara understood. Nothing would ever be the same. The secrets lay just beneath the skin, waiting to break free. And within that desperate silence, the dark twin grinned wider, a dawning comprehension weaving through Clara like a vine. Who really was the enemy? What if the greatest danger wasn't in the shadows, but right in front of them? Clara felt the ground shift beneath her feet, and she knew they were all in peril. What kind of storm had they awakened? Clara stood frozen, her heart racing as Anna's fragile form shimmered in and out of focus. The specter of the past loomed over them, the air thick with memories and whispers of desperation. Shadows twisted and pulled as if the very house breathed, consuming their hopes. Leo's small hand trembled in hers, but his gaze shone with fierce determination. "Mom," he breathed, reaching out again, but the air pulsed ominously. Clara could feel something deep brewing, an awakening beneath the surface. The earth shifted, quaking, as if in response to the weight of the hidden truths. "Stop!" Clara shouted into the encroaching darkness, desperation washing over her. "This isn't right." But the shadows didn't listen. They surged forward, and suddenly, a blinding flash burst from Anna's figure. Clara shielded her eyes, fearing what might come next. Just then, a low growl echoed, shaking the very foundation beneath them. Then, like a nightmare ripping through reality, the shadows split wide open, revealing a swirling void. It was dark and bottomless, like an endless pit calling her name. Clara felt the urge to pull Leo closer, to shield him from whatever horror waited. And then it happened. A pulse. A surge of bright light overcoming the storm of darkness. Clara's breath caught in her throat as the shadows recoiled, revealing a figure emerging from the depths, a child, a little girl, maybe 6, with hauntingly familiar eyes that bore into Clara's soul. "Emma." Anna's ethereal voice cracked. "My daughter." Clara's heart thudded painfully. "What? Who is she?" The child's eyes darted wildly around the room, searching for familiarity and comfort. "Mommy?" she called, voice trembling as the air grew heavier. "I'm scared." "No." The millionaire's voice thundered through the chaos. "You shouldn't be here. We thought we lost you." And Clara felt a sudden rush of clarity. A child born of tragedy? She was trapped? The shadows began to form together, reshaping the air around them into familiar faces. Clara gasped, dread coiling tightly in her chest. They weren't just dragging shadows from the past. They were stitching together the missing pieces, the unspeakable truths the family had buried deep. But then the ground trembled again, and Clara heard a voice unlike any other. It was a grating growl, layered with wickedness. "Look at what you've summoned, Anna." The dark twin stepped forward, teeth bared in a grin that sent chills down Clara's spine. "Your precious daughter, lost and forgotten, just like you." "No," Leo yelled, stepping forward. "She's not lost, she's here." And Clara felt a sudden rush of clarity. "You can't take her. Not now, we are stronger than you." The words escaped her lips before she could think. The dark twin cackled, shadows swirling angrily around him. "Oh, but dear Clara, you're just beginning to understand. There's so much more you don't know, and so much that is about to change." The room began to twist and contort as memories surfaced, the aftermath of the car crash, a suffocating guilt that bound them all. Everything Clara had learned shattered, like glass underfoot. "Leo, hold on," Clara shouted, drawing him back. "We have to fight." But as she turned to reach for him, a sudden jolt shot through the walls. The ground twisted violently, the echoes of trapped souls crying out in unison. Clara's heart raced as the shadows fused together, creating a swirling vortex that sucked in everything around them. "Clara," Leo cried out, fear etched on his young face, but the shadows wrapped tighter, dragging him into the void. "No," Clara screamed, lunging forward, but invisible hands held her back. All at once, The child's voice pierced the chaos. "Mommy, don't let go." Then everything exploded. The house twisted and shook violently, and in that moment of chaos, something cracked wide open inside Clara. The darkness fought against the light, rippling like fire through her veins. She felt a power rise, an ancient strength awakening within her. Then without warning, she shouted, "I will not let you take him." The shadows recoiled as if struck, freezing the time around Clara. The room darkened, shadows curling against the walls, retreating from her voice. Leo's cry echoed again, a mix of terror and pain. And then the ground beneath her feet shuddered, opening up to reveal a hidden passage, a spiral staircase leading deep into the earth. A choice between sacrificing Leo to save her own life or finding a way to fight the evil together. As she glanced at Leo, his eyes glistening with unspoken fears and hope, she felt a surge of love flood through her. "We have to go down there," she urged, half wanting to pull him back toward light, but knowing they might find a way out if they faced the darkness together. But just as she reached for him, he gasped, shock washing over his face. "Wait!" Clara turned in confusion. In that instant, a blinding flash erupted from the staircase as a familiar face emerged. It wasn't Anna or the dark twin. It was Clara herself, ages older, eyes filled with knowledge and sorrow. "Clara?" she screamed, voice breaking. The older Clara smiled, yet it was laced with sadness. "You cannot escape your choices. You lead them here." In that shocking moment, Clara's heart dropped into her stomach. Who was she really? What had she unleashed? The room spun off its axis as everything they thought they knew shuddered and melted away. What secrets lay hidden in this twisted family? And what fate awaited them all, caught between alternative versions of their own lives? The shadows flickered, waiting in silence, ready to draw them into the unknown. The choice loomed heavier than ever. Clara stood on the brink, the weight of the world pressing down as the older version of herself met her gaze. Confusion clenched her heart. What did this mean? Was it a warning? A prophecy? Or something more sinister? Behind her, shadows danced, dark tendrils wrapping around Leo, pulling him into a past she thought she could escape. "Clara?" the older version croaked, eyes filled with a blend of regret and fear. "You have to understand." Before she could finish, the floor shook violently, sending everyone tumbling as swirling shadows lunged toward the older Clara, who let out a breathy, desperate scream. Then, in an instant, she faded into nothingness, leaving only a haunting echo that reverberated through the chaos. "Mommy?" Emma's voice shattered the oppressive silence. Clara's heart twisted at the sight of the little girl, a fragment of the family's sorrow rendered in skin and bone. "Emma, we have to go," she cried, fighting against the urge to save the girl. She was trapped here, a puppet in this dark theater of grief, and each moment was a page crumbling to dust. "Mom!" Leo shouted, fear coloring his tone as he stepped back, confusion swirling in his bright eyes. "What just happened?" Clara squeezed his hand tighter, panic sparking in her chest. "I don't know, but we can't get lost in this." But the air crackled and foamed, shadows swirling like a storm closing in. The walls of the mansion were alive, each brick humming with the weight of unconfessed truths. A low groan echoed through the space, like the mourning cries of the past reaching for the light. "Clara," the millionaire's voice cut through the darkness, thick with desperation. "We can't trust her. She's trying to manipulate you." But as Clara looked at him, her mind raced. But is she? She felt the ground tremble, each heartbeat matching the pulse of the shadows. As tension rose, an unexpected flash blinded them. Clara felt a strange tug, a force pulling her toward the staircase, where the shocking silhouette of a figure emerged from the depths. And then everything shattered. The figure stepped into the dim light, revealing not the older Clara, but Anna herself, looking radiant yet ghostly. The air turned electric, prickling Clara's skin as time seemed to hesitate, catching its breath. "Why did you bring her back?" Anna asked, voice trembling, eyes piercing into Clara's soul. You don't know what you've unleashed. What? Clara whispered, her heart thumping violently. I was the key, Anna continued, taking a step forward, the shadows enveloping her feet. It's not just about Leo, it's about the darkness binding us all. The words struck like lightning. Clara's brain whirled. Binding us how? She demanded, heart constricting in fear. The accident. It was no accident. Anna revealed, voice thick with dread. It was orchestrated. I was never meant to die that day. The revelation hit Clara like a punch to the gut. For every piece of sorrow, there lay greater anguish beneath. What are you saying? She gasped, glancing at Leo, who stood transfixed, bewildered. I arranged it, Anna confessed, tears streaming like rivers of regret, to escape a fate worse than death. Clara's breath caught. The truth was a jagged edge slicing through her resolve. You? No, you loved him. How could you? But Anna's expression revealed something deeper, sadness mingling with strength. I loved him too much. At that moment, the mansion shook violently, shadows clawing for attention. Clara felt the room shift, collapsing under the weight of hidden truths. Get away, the dark twin screeched, his voice a banshee wail, riling the air into chaos. Stop, Clara yelled, grabbing Leo's arm, pulling him close. What does it mean? And then, as if on cue, the house split open, walls interweaving into a portal, a gaping maw pulling them all into the unknown. Clara and Leo teetered on the edge, fear wrapping around them like barbed wire. The darkness beckoned, but the truth? Clara felt its powerful pull. She knew, in that moment, everything was about to change. What had egged this family into the abyss? What legacy awaited? Leo, she shouted, grasping his hand tight. No matter what, we stick together. As shadows whipped closer and reality blurred, a chilling thought engulfed Clara. Had they all been mere pawns, entangled in a web spun by lies and desperation, teetering between light and darkness? The depths awaited, and Clara knew they would have to face it together or be swallowed whole. Clara felt a pulse of energy surge around her, a desperate call echoing through the chaos. Shadows pressed in like phantoms, and she could sense the gravity of all their shared pain, a tapestry woven with threads of grief and longing. As Anna's shimmering figure flickered in the swirling darkness, Clara took a deep breath. Stop hiding. I won't let you destroy what's left of this family, she shouted, injecting her voice with every ounce of strength she could muster. The shadows hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty rippling through them. Leo, wide-eyed, squeezed Clara's hand, his small grip anchoring her. We can do this together, he declared, voice steady despite the fear that threatened to engulf them. With that, they stepped forward, united in resolve. As the dark twin lashed out, Clara felt a moment of panic, but it ignited a fire within. Her understanding glimmered through the anguish. They weren't just fighting against the shadows, they were reclaiming their own truths. Anna, Clara called, desperate to reach Anna's essence amidst the tumult. We're here to bring back the light. Bring her back. Emma's voice echoed, haunting, yet filled with hope as she rushed forward to Clara's side. The shadows stirred as the spirits drew closer, caught in a gravitational pull between darkness and light. Enough, the dark twin howled, launching toward them, shadows swirling in an angry tempest. But Clara planted her feet firmly, heart pounding against her ribs. Leo, hold my hand tight. She felt the tremor in him, the urgency coursing through them. Yet something shifted. A power surged stronger than the dark, igniting a brilliant flash that filled the room. I will not let the darkness win, Clara cried, feeling the warmth envelop them like a protective cloak. The shadows recoiled, flickering wildly, almost sentient in their retreat. And then, against the backdrop of chaos, Anna's voice rose from the darkness with newfound clarity. Clara, it's our love that binds us. The corners of her translucent form glowed with an inner light, illuminating the darkness surrounding them. You must remember that love is the true strength. With a fierce determination, Clara turned to Leo. We're not alone. We have each other. She could feel the gravity of every pain, every loss, but at that moment, they united against the weight of their shared sorrow. With one resolute step forward, Clara whispered fiercely, "Take back the light." Together they raised their arms, channeling warmth and love into the air, and a euphoric wave erupted from them, illuminating the darkness. The shadows unraveled like mist, the dark twin howling in disbelief. "No, you can't!" But Clara wouldn't let his words control her anymore. As the combined power ignited, shards of darkness shattered, releasing the trapped souls into a cascade of spectral light. Anna's form shifted, glowing brighter, her essence transforming into something ethereal yet powerful. "Thank you," Anna whispered, tearful yet radiant. As she reached for Emma, the girl dove into her mother's embrace, a bond rekindled, filling the empty corners of their hearts. In that moment, Clara felt the house shudder, a shockwave tumbling through the foundation. The shadows dissipated into nothingness, leaving only warmth and the scent of rain, fresh and full of promise. Leo looked up at Clara, face glowing with wonder. "We did it!" Tears stung her eyes, the relief sweeping over her like a gentle tide. They had freed not only themselves, but those bound by the chains of their past. In the silence that followed, the mansion felt lighter, its weight finally lifted. "Goodbye, Clara," Anna murmured, her voice echoing softly as she began to fade into the light. "You gave us our peace." Clara's heart ached at the beauty of it all. "Goodbye, thank you for everything." As Anna and Emma's silhouettes shimmered, Clara turned to Leo. "Let's go home." In that moment of clarity, Clara knew the journey ahead was still their own. They'd face the future together, no longer alone. And as they stepped out from the remnants of the mansion, the first rays of dawn broke through the shadows, a promise of new beginnings. You know what? This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button right now because it feeds the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Only real fans understand how crucial it is to support the channel through your actions. We appreciate you.